Hey, how are you? I'm glad that you're joining me. Well, obviously, you are interested in finding out about a DNR. DNR. Do not resuscitate. I didn't know much about a DNR until my grandmother. My mom made sure that my grandmother had a DNR, and I wasn't in the realm of caregiving or anything like that. But I will tell you, I sure learned about it over the last 15 years when I had to take care of my own family. Um, do not resuscitate. Usually that's a hard decision for some people. But if you're dealing with a lot of medical issues and you're just tired of it, I can see why people would say, don't even, if it's my time to go, let me go. But it's easy to say that, but you have to have paperwork ready that your caregiver can present. A lot of times when people do a living trust, not only is there a trust to deal with property, estates, and things like that, but you have a living will. It's where you're basically designating what you want to give to whom and what. And then they also have things like the power of attorney, POA. POA basically is good when you're still alive. You designate who will be your power of attorney to speak on your behalf for financial things. Anything has to speak on your behalf if you're incapacitated or not able to speak. But there's also a POA of health directives. Yeah, power of attorney for health directives. That means that you're going to authorize a person to make medical decisions for you. That is something that is not really readily thought about, but it is something significant. They work on behalf of you while you're still around. If you're not able to make decisions, if you're compromised, even on a temporary or a full time scenario, that person that you designate will then speak on your behalf to carry out your wishes of what you'd like to do. It's so important to do that. And if that one person is not available, then you select an alternate and then another person right behind them if any of the other two are not able to do that. It really is so very important that you have these things in place. And then they also have a power of attorney for financial decisions. All these things come into play, but I'm going to speak specifically of health and DNR, which is do not resuscitate. You know, a pre-hospital DNR form is an official state document. And I live in the state of California, so I'm going to focus primarily on California, but each state has their own rules and regulations. So check your state's authorization and information when it comes to any type of DNR or POLST, which is physician's orders for life-sustaining treatment. Shortened up, it's POLST. Those things will go hand in hand with the POA health directive. They're not the same. They look the same in regards to the lingo, but really they're not. And I will discuss that a little bit in depth in a little bit here. But a POLST and a DNR work hand in hand. The POLST, the physician's orders for life saving treatment, is like, well, let me show you one. Here is a blank one. It's for the state of California, and you fill this out, and it's a two-sider. Okay, it's a form that you could print out or that you can get through the California Medical Association. And when you fill this out, you're basically telling the EMTs, because they'd want to see this too. You're telling the EMTs, the medical staff, the hospital staff, whomever, that you want to attempt CPR, or you do not want anyone to attempt any type of resuscitation on you or whoever's listed as the patient on this document. Another thing is medical interventions. They want to know, do you want full treatment? selective treatment, comfort and focus treatment. There's so many things. And it basically tells you like the selective treatment is goal of treating medical conditions, avoiding burdensome measures in addition to, and it lays it all out. Do you want IV antibiotics? Do you want IV fluids? Do not intubate. It's where they put the tube down your throat so that you have help breathing. So it says may use non-invasive positive airway pressure, things like that. This is going to determine and give instructions to whoever is treating your loved one. I think everybody alive should have one of these, especially as older as we get, that would be there. And these things are all different in each state. A lot of times, and I'll show you how it is, where they usually want it in a bright green or bright pink. And well, this is what it looks like. But what they want to do is they want it to be noticed. And what I did for my mom is I took this POLST and I put all the pertinent information in this cover, protective cover for the pages, and I would stick it on the refrigerator, a place that the EMS or the EMT or first responder would notice it right away. Because the last thing you want to do is if you call for help, you don't want to be searching all over the place like, oh, wait a minute, let me get the file. No, they're there to save someone's life. So you want to have it readily available. And in this pouch, not only did I have the POLST, but I also had my mom's medication list. I had a list of everything that she was taking, how much she was taking, the frequency, what it is, the dosage. I had it on a sheet of paper, and all this stuff could be found in this packet on the refrigerator. It's my understanding that certain places, first responders, the fire department, they sometimes will have a form or a notification that is attached to your address. So if anything does happen, they know that it's flagged that to look for one of these things. But you never know what might happen. You can't 100% rely on it. I would still say take this and place it on your refrigerator or at least near the patient so that they know to look for it, that it's right there. The form does not affect the provision of life-sustaining measure, such as artificial nutrition or hydration, or any emergency medical care. What it does, it will at least guide the first responders of what to do. I brought this POLST with me everywhere I went. Matter of fact, I had created a booklet of my mom's medical, her prescriptions. And in this, I also had the POLST in there. I had the POLST. And then I also included something you might want to consider, a copy of my mom's durable power of attorney for healthcare. When people would see this, or when I would present this at the hospital, if my mom was in the hospital or needed some sort of attention, people would have copies of this already. And it cuts through a lot of red tape because there's no guessing as to what needs to be done. Now, granted, depending on the severity of the reason why they're at the hospital or whatever, that is at least defining. If it gets really dicey, we know there's no DNR, no resuscitation. She doesn't want to be on life support. That POLST will then define everything, and it'll be listing that same health directive that I just showed you. It'll also show who's in charge. In this case, it'll be listed on here, and a nurse practitioner or a doctor that's on staff will sign this to make this document official as well. So it kind of works together. That's the main thing, is it works together. So it's very important that you have that. Um, every state, every state is different. And I think that's something to pay attention to. Whether it's the color of the form itself, whether there's certain things that need to accompany the documentation, check with your state. It really does make a difference. There's another thing too that my mom had that you don't really see that much, but people that have medical issues, my mom was allergic to penicillin. She would blow up like a blowfish. Her throat would close up and she couldn't breathe. Um, she nearly died when I was younger because she accidentally was given penicillin. And from that moment on, she was given a medic alert necklace. It's a medallion. And what it is, it says medical alert, with the little emblem. Here's what it looks like. It's kind of like this. And on the back side, it says what the cause of emergency would be. In other words, she's allergic to penicillin. It would have her name and it would kind of list, it's engraved on there. The funny thing is, mom had it all most of her life that I've been around, and she wasn't wearing it. You're supposed to wear it either as a bracelet or as a necklace, so that if you are out and about, well, mom stopped using it and kind of used it as a decoration with her jewelry. That's the funny thing, is we never really did talk about it, but I always knew that it existed. And now that as being her caregiver, I was kind of like, oh, that's what that's for. But that does speak volumes to an EMT also. You can usually get information through caregiving advocates or Medic Alert Foundation, and they could help you out with all that stuff. But I'm going to go through some little examples. My mom, when my grandmother fell ill and she was struggling, she had pneumonia, she had bad tuberculosis scarring when she was younger. And at the end of her life, it was kind of hard. My mom made sure that there was a DNR for my grandmother. But when my mom had an issue and the EMT showed up, my mom could not present the DNR because it was in a file somewhere. She didn't do what I had learned. You put it in a packet and you have all the information ready to go in case of an emergency. And they did do life sustaining treatment on her. Mom couldn't present it, and they did what they were supposed to do. By the time I got to the hospital, because they ended up bringing her to the hospital, my mom kept saying she doesn't want to have treatment. She doesn't want to be taken away. But in my mom's panic, they did. And by the time I got to the hospital, my grandmother was on life support. She had breathing tubes and everything she didn't want. But if there's a silver lining to be attached to it, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? At least I got to say goodbye to my grandmother, because I was on the radio and that was my job. And I couldn't find anybody to fill in my shift. So in a weird way, I'm kind of grateful that I was able to say goodbye, but I hated seeing my grandmother in a situation that she didn't want to be in, hooked up to a machine. So I kind of learned from that life experience of my mom what she went through. And another thing that I learned too is in talking to some members of my support group, we had discussed the elderly in regards to people that are in their late 80s to early 90s and their health situations, they too could have a DNR, but it's kind of like if you can't present this information in a timely manner and you need to have help from an EMT or something, they're going to, you don't want them to do chest compressions on somebody who's already compromised physically. The pain, let's say they survive. Let's say they didn't want to be resuscitated, but yet you do chest compressions and do whatever else, the recovery time for a person that's elderly like that, they'll be in complete pain. Um, they're just doing their job. But if you want to deflect that, be prepared to show what they need to see. You could show them your health directive, but the health directive is like this thick with paperwork. They don't have time for that. They don't have time to look for it. That's why the POLST is like, boom, boom. This is what you want. This is what you're needing. This is what you desire. Get signed by a doctor. You're the health directive point of contact. Okay. So then that's good. That's why they work hand in hand. One's the quick shot. It's the Reader's Digest version of this is what we need to do. And here's the health directive to support the POLST. That's why it's important that the doctor, your PCP has those copies so that they know what's going on. The hospital knows what's going on. If something should go awry, this is what we need to do. If you have an EMT situation that needs to be coming at home for help, it's right here on the fridge. Boom. Keep those things together and everybody needs a copy. It's basically CYA. You're covering your ass. And another thing that we had talked about too in my support group was that if a person is going into surgery and they have a DNR, make sure, and every state's different, but please make sure that you understand the pros and cons of surgery and life-sustaining treatment. You may have a DNR on the wall at the nurse's station, at the hospital. It'll say DNR next to your name, but that's what if you're in the middle of surgery? What is the protocol of that hospital? What is the protocol of that state? Those are things you need to think about. Like if they're in the middle of a surgery and they need to do something, what exactly is going to happen? It's all about communication, people. I keep telling you, communication is key. You can have all the right documents, but it's the understanding of what your state regulations are when it comes to life-sustaining treatment. Now, you can reverse your DNR orders simply by destroying the order. If there's no order and it's destroyed, it doesn't go into effect. But, I always say this, and I learned this from my own parents. Present your medallion, your DNR form, anything to skilled nursing facilities. Hospice needs to know all this stuff. Everybody needs to be on the same page. You can never make too many copies when it comes to medical care because you have no idea what's ahead. None. And that's the other thing too. My mom was upset with the EMTs, but she called 911. When you're on hospice care, hospice always says, don't call 911. You call us. And the reason being is if there is a DNR and everybody is aware of that, you don't want to call 911 because they will then take over and hospice's hands will be tied. If you call hospice and something happens, they will honor the DNR. They will make sure that your loved one is comfortable secure and safe. They will make sure that your loved one will pass comfortably and that the DNR will be honored. But everybody has to be aware of it. Everybody has to be on the same page. Just remember, every organization, whether it's first responders, hospital, doctor, home care, they all need to have this documentation. I hope that this information helps you out a little bit. But if there's anything that I could tell you that brought me most comfort, is to create this packet. Make sure you find out about your state's POLST, okay? Get that filled out. Make a list of your medication, dosage, amount, frequency, okay? Make sure you have that in there as well. Maybe who your primary contacts are, the doctors, family members. Have that in that packet too. And you take that packet with all the information that you need that we just talked about, and you stick it in a page protector and you clip it to your refrigerator. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to have one in the refrigerator, in the bedroom where the patient is, different places that you can easily grab it. This way, everybody is on the same page. Bad things happen when you panic. If you stay calm and everything's in its place, you just grab it and you hand it to them. They're going to know what to look for too. Hey, I hope this helped you out. Just remember, stay calm, be blessed, and always take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next video. Hey, thanks for watching. And please remember to hit the subscribe button. We are trying to grow our channel and reach 1,000 subscribers. Now, for every new subscriber, these two nutheads right here, they're going to get a treat, so we will all be happy. Thanks for watching.